This program is sponsored by North Valley Church of Christ.
There's a message true and glad for the sinful and the sad. Ring it out, ring it out, ring it out, ring it out. It will give them courage new, it will help them to be true. Ring it out, ring it out, ring it out, ring out the word, oh land.
Good afternoon, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Redeeming the Time. I'm your host, Chris Macy, and I am the minister here with the North Valley Church of Christ. Well, I've been doing a series on Colossians, and I'm going to be honest with you. I've been doing this series also on Wednesday night. So I would do it on the radio show for Tuesday. Wednesday night here at the church building, I do the same lesson again. We have a class, we talk about it. And I was not able to go to services, the Bible study on Wednesday night. I was not feeling good. And so I'm off. You know, they're no longer in sync. So I'm going to get to Colossians next week. In fact, I have the next lesson ready to go. But I'm going to do something different so that I can keep what I'm doing on the radio program and on Wednesday nights in line. It makes my schedule a little easier with the things I got going on. So I hope you understand. So if you're at home or you're someplace where you want to open your Bible on your phone app or your actual book, we'll be looking at Daniel chapter 3 here in just a moment. But I want to encourage folks out there that I always encourage you to go to our website, nvcoc.net, N-E-T. But I also want to encourage you to download our app. I need to put a link on our website to download the app. That seems like an obvious thing I need to be doing. I want to be doing that. But I really want you to get it on your phone. But if you'd rather only do the website, that's fine and that's understandable. But let me tell you a little bit about the app. And it's exactly the same as what we see on the website. Now we changed that up. So, it opens up, it says, welcome to North Valley Church of Christ. It has this little scroll. The next scroll has got the live services. You click on it takes you to YouTube. We've got an article to talk about what we're studying on Sunday and Wednesday nights after that. And then a link to Copper Basin Bible Camp, where you can register for the summer camps coming up here in June. And that's always a great thing. If you got kids and you're in the Phoenix Valley and you want to be able to send them to camp, what a great place. And you may be thinking, Chris, I can't send my kids to camp. I can't afford it. That's like $1,000 a kid. I got 4 kids. My kids have never been to camp, or they're too young. Well, we have camp for just about every age. Obviously not babies, but we have Cub Camp. Cub Camp is only 2 days. It's a half day on a Wednesday, all day Thursday, half day Friday. And Cub Camp requires a parent or a guardian to be there at the camp. They don't have to be engaged in the things that you can if you want to. And we do. The kids love it. We keep the kids in their own cabins. The parents will have another cabin of their own. You got Prescott right there. You can go look around. But we just want you present just in case the kid has a meltdown. This is intended to help the kid learn how to be away from mom and dad during camp. But someone's there just in case they can't handle it too well. To be honest, I don't think we've ever had to do that. Maybe one. Oh, no, I'll take that back. One time. One kid couldn't handle it once, but it was no big deal. They keep trying, and it gets better every year. And how much does something like that cost? $20 a kid. That's it. $20 a kid. Parents come free. We lodge you. We give you all the food. We feed your kids. We feed you. Everyone gets breakfast and lunch and dinner. That's great. And it's fantastic. Great facilities at the camp. So think about that. After that, we also have in the order. Let me go to the website and make sure. I'll put it in order as we have the camp. So Cub Camp, June 4th to the 6th, $20, non-refundable. Then after that, the next week, June the 8th, it starts on Sunday afternoon, the high school camp, and that's $225 a kid. But it's all week to Friday afternoon, and we have our directors for that. After that, junior high camp, $225, all week, Sunday to Friday. After that, 4th through 6th grade camp, 225. June 22nd to 27th, all week. And then after that, combo week. That's junior high and high school combined. This is our most popular camp, June 29th to July 4th. Same price. So cheap. And it's a great place. Everyone loves it. So I encourage you to go to our website to take a look at that, or go straight to Copper Basin, cbbc.life, and learn about that. On the website, we have our articles you can look at there. You can click on an article. You can read it. You can share it on Facebook, share it on X. You can bookmark things if you are signed in. We have our calendar. If you're signed in, that's only for our members, so that's the only people who can see the calendar. Online videos are here as well, and you can look at those. And then you have the radio program at the bottom. You can listen to this program when it's posted and all the past programs. How awesome is that? You can even bookmark them for favorites and fantastic things. So I encourage you to take a look at that. Awesome things, wonderful things. Daniel chapter 3. Daniel chapter 3. We probably know this story well. This is that story about the king who, Nebuchadnezzar, makes that big golden image, and he wants everyone to bow down and worship that golden image he makes. And the 3 friends of Daniel won't do it right, and those counselors of the king, they don't like those 3 guys, so they tattletale on them, and he's going to throw them in that fiery furnace unless they bow down. And that's the story we're going to look at this afternoon. So, let's read in chapter 3, verse 1. It says, Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold, the height of which was 60 cubits, and its width 6 cubits. He set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Okay. So how big is that cubits thing? Well, it's about 90 feet tall, 8 stories high. So it's like a mid-rise building here in the Phoenix Valley. And it's a golden image. And that's hard to believe. That's an awful lot of gold, right? For something that big would certainly topple over and fall on his face. We're not given much detail. But many scholars believe that this was not a freestanding. They think it was built into a cliff. We don't know. It could have been like an actual stone statue, and then they plated it with gold. But either way, that's a lot of gold. There was an ancient historian named Diodorus Siculus who made mention of a statue of gold in the temple of Belus, which Xerxes demolished. That particular one was only 40 feet high. So this one that Nebuchadnezzar made was twice the size. Oh, more than twice the size. Now, the 40-foot high one contained 1,000 talents of gold. 1,000 talents. And if you're out there and you think that a talent is simply a gold coin, you'd be wrong. Talents are not just a coin. It is a measurement of weight. And back then, each region had one talent weighed a little differently. It wasn't much, but safe to say, on average, 1 talent of gold would be 75 pounds. 75 pounds. So 1,000 talents, 75,000 pounds. And if they used 2,000 talents on the 90-foot one, guess what? 150,000 pounds. So that's what, 63 tons. 63 tons of gold. Do you know how much money that is? $4.8 billion. $4.8 billion. It's what people did back then. Using gold in this fashion was a common activity of those who were rich and could do it because they were honoring their gods in a fashion, and they felt this was an appropriate way to express their devotion. So our story is based on an actual behavior of society of the day. But this is not just a true story. It's a story with a twist. The statue was an idol erected to glorify a pagan god. Idols in Babylon to honor their gods were probably a dime a dozen, But this one was different. Number one, it was huge. And number two, Nebuchadnezzar built it, right? So that was more important. So we drop down to chapter 3, verses 12. And this is after they've already had it up, and whenever they play the music, everyone's supposed to bow down and worship. And the text tells us the king's advisors found out that the three friends of Daniel were not doing this. So they said to the king, "There are certain Jews whom you have appointed over the administration of the province of Babylon, namely Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have disregarded you. They do not serve your gods or worship the golden image which you have set up." Then Nebuchadnezzar, in rage and anger, gave orders to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then these men were brought before the king. Nebuchadnezzar responded and said to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image that I have set up? Now, if you are ready, at the moment you hear the sound of the horn, flute, lyre, trigon, psaltery, and bagpipe, and all kinds of music, to fall down and worship the image that I have made, very well. But if you do not worship, you will immediately be cast into the midst of a furnace of blazing fire, and what God is there who can deliver you out of my hands?" Oh, man. Scary, right? Would you want to burn alive? And this man had the power to order them to be burned. They had the furnace right there. And he told them, all you got to do is just drop down, worship. And otherwise, you're going to get thrown into the furnace alive. Well, this was, you could say, a God moment. This was a time when I believe God was, and I'm going to be honest with you, God was setting them up. He was putting them, he was putting them in a position where they had to make a choice. God can cause all things to work together for good, but he also puts people in these situations. For example, didn't God do that to Abraham? Abraham, get up, take your son, your only son, to the mountain that I will show you, and sacrifice him to me. Remember that? Now, if you know the story, then you know that God was never going to let him sacrifice his son. He wanted Abraham to make a choice. What are you going to choose, Abraham? Who do you believe more? Yourself, the world, or me? And Abraham knew, even if he were to sacrifice his son, somehow God would bring the boy back, and because God had promised him through his son, this particular son, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. So you have that time. You have the time when David, when he was just a young shepherd boy whose father had sent him with food, remember, for his brothers. They were fighting the Philistines. I believe God arranged for David to be there at just the time Goliath insulted Israel and their God. And at that moment, David had to make a choice. The choice was to be quiet or to stand up. God moment, right? And then there's the story of Queen Esther. The queen married to an evil and brutal king, and she learned her people were in danger. Her cousin Mordecai came to her to ask her to intercede with her husband to protect her people, but she was not eager to do that. Her husband was known to kill people on a whim, and if she approached him without his permission, she might end up dead as well. And that's when Mordecai tells her in Esther 4:13 and 14. Mordecai told them to reply to Esther, "Do not imagine that you in the king's palace can escape any more than all the Jews. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, and you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not attained royalty for such a time as this." In other words, God may have placed you in that situation, Esther, to stand up for righteousness. But if you don't make your stand, you may not save yourself anyway. You and your father's house will perish. That brings us back to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They faced a harsh decision, a time when God had set them up to stand up for righteousness. And the odd thing is, if they choose to surrender, they'd have to bow down and compromise their principles. They'd have died anyway. They'd simply have died in a different way at a different time. So how do I know that? Because of what Daniel 3 says. In verses 8, 9, and 12, it tells us that these Chaldeans, these guys who, counseled the king, they're called the Chaldeans. They hated Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they had made it their goal to destroy them. Maybe their jealousy was because of the success the three men had. Maybe they are just bigoted against the Jews. But there's no question that they hated these three. And if they can't destroy them over this issue, they'll find some other way to take them out. So faced with that hatred, I suspect that these three decided that if they're going to be burned anyway, they may as well be burned for the right reason. They choose God. Now, how does this apply? How does this apply to you and to me? It comes down to how we answer the question Nebuchadnezzar asked Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Do you know what the question was? It's found there in Daniel 3:15. What God is there who can deliver you out of my hands? Out of my hands. What God is there who can deliver you? How did they answer that question? Well, let's take a look. So we're looking at verse 16. Or the end of verse 15. What God is there who can deliver you out of my hands? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to give you an answer concerning this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the furnace of blazing fire, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But even if he does not, let it be known to you, O king, that we are not going to serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. Not going to do it. Man. You know, I was talking to somebody a while back, and he was telling me about a football team his kids had been on. And he said he watched as the kids took the field, and he knew they were going to lose. Why? Because he could tell by the way those boys looked as they got out on the field, how they conducted themselves, how they held themselves. It was obvious that they had lost the game long before they put on the helmets. They were going to lose because they believed they couldn't win. So why try? So if you go into something believing, I cannot do this, I guarantee you, you won't do it. You're not going to do it because you believe that. You must go in there believing you can. Because if you think you can't, then you're never going to do it because you don't think you can. You're not going to try. You're not going to give your all. If you take the field believing your God can do stuff and you've spent time in prayer asking for his help, there's no force on earth that can bring you to your knees. You may not win according to the world, but you will win. That's what Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were saying. We may not win, but we will not lose. Our God is able to deliver us. And then they say, but if he does not. Now but even if he does not, that's the New American Standard. And in the New American Standard Bible that I use, the words even, he does are in italics, and that just means it's not in the original Hebrew. So originally, if you were to take just the Hebrew, it says, but if not. But if not, let it be made known to you, King. Even if God decides not to rescue us from your fiery furnace, we will not bow down. We will not surrender. We will not dishonor our God, no matter the price. Have you seen the movie, I think it's a Christopher Nolan movie, The Battle of Dunkirk? Battle of Dunkirk. September 1st, 1939, Nazi Germany began what we call World War II, swept across Europe in what Hitler called his Lightning War. And when it was all said and done, Hitler had driven the Allies back to the sea. Nearly 500,000 British and French troops were trapped in the small city of Dunkirk on the English Channel called Dunkirk. And Germany had them at their mercy. Hitler's armored divisions were 15 miles away. The Air Force, I know it's called something different, Luftwaffe or something, whatever his Air Force was called. They were bombing and they were strafing the hapless armies. They were flying through, just shooting them. I mean, what could they do? What could those troops do? They couldn't. These planes were just killing them, one after another. Several leaders in the British were discussing trying to bribe or cut a deal with Hitler. Sir Edmund Ironside, chief of the Imperial General Staff, confided to a colleague that this is the end of the British Empire. A member of the British government wrote to his wife that they might be compelled to commit suicide. It was at that desperate moment that the churches of Britain called for a national day of prayer. Numerous political leaders, newspaper editors, King George VI issued a call for National Day of Prayer on Sunday, May the 26th. And people, they did it. Outside, places to worship, wherever, they were all praying. And as the British people anxiously awaited word of their fate, a 3-word message was transmitted from the besieged army, and all it said was, "But if not." The British public instantly recognized the message as being a reference to the biblical story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego standing before King Nebuchadnezzar's fiery furnace. Our God is able to save us, but if not, we will remain faithful to him anyway. 7 o'clock, May 26, the order was issued to attempt a desperate evacuation of Dunkirk. Every tiny vessel, private craft, was sent across the often treacherous waters of the English Channel, but something strange happened over those 9 days of rescue. Hitler ordered his troops to halt in order to give the German Air Force a chance to seal their victory. But the German air power was hampered. There was an extremely unfavorable weather that day, and a fog settled on the beach that hid the troops as they boarded the boats. And the normally treacherous channels of waters became unnaturally calm. At the end of 9 days, of the 500,000 men trapped at Dunkirk, 336,000 were saved. Amazing. Amazing. One more part of this story in Daniel that we need to remember. I kind of, in my mind's eye, when I read the story, so Nebuchadnezzar gets angry at what they say. It says there in verse 19, that Nebuchadnezzar was filled with wrath, and his facial expression was altered toward Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He answered by giving orders to heat the furnace 7 times more than it was usually heated. So I could almost imagine him staring out like anger so raged. He just says, "Oh, heat the furnace 7 times hotter." And then when they threw the 3 into the furnace, the men who threw them in died from the heat coming from the furnace. I can see Nebuchadnezzar sitting on his makeshift throne, wherever that was, looking in that furnace, thinking that he's going to see these bodies laying on the ground, writhing, burning, but he does not. No, he sees 4 bodies, and they're not lying on the ground burning. They're standing, walking around. Their hair unsinged, their clothes still on, not burning. His men laying there on the ground, dead, so he knows their heat. What's going on? What's happening here? The text tells us in verses 24 and 25, Nebuchadnezzar the king was astounded and stood up in haste. He said to his high officials, "Was it not 3 men we cast bound into the midst of the fire?" They replied to the king, "Certainly, O king." He said, "Look, I see 4 men loosed and walking about in the midst of the fire without harm, and the appearance of the 4th is like the son of the god." So yeah, they were bound. So there was rope, but the rope burned away. Why didn't their clothes? Why didn't their hair? And because they come out, he has them, calls them out, and everything was fine. God makes this promise repeatedly throughout the Bible. Deuteronomy 31:8. It is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed. This is a promise we can rely on. But the promise is only ours if we are his child. It doesn't mean he's going to take us out of every horrible thing that may happen to us, but if we stay faithful, we have a place with him in eternity in heaven forever. As Jesus told his disciples, I go away. But if I go away, I will come. I will prepare a place for you. In my Father's house there are many rooms, many mansions. And if I go away, I will come back and take you. Do you believe this? Do you believe this? I do. And on May 19th, 1994, I was baptized into Christ, died to self, and I live for him. And at that crossroad, I chose the Lord, and I still do today. That's all the time we have. Thank you for being here. Thanks for listening, and God bless.
Till the sinful world be won for Jehovah's mighty Son. Ring it out, ring it out, ring it out.
This program was sponsored by North Valley Church of Christ. To hear this program again, go to FamilyValuesRadio1010.com and click on the podcast page and find this program and many others right there on FamilyValuesRadio1010.com.